Poetry is weird stuff, isn't it? I've always kind of wrestled to understand, why are we doing poetry right now? Growing up and going through school and English class, and you study poems and you do these different things. Why? What is the big deal about these words that rhyme? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Let me give you an example. And the moms in the room are going to roll their eyes at my level of maturity or lack thereof. I know this, but it makes my point, so just go with me. Finish the phrase. Beans, beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. Exactly. Thank you very much. Why are we doing this? Why does that make us laugh? Why does poetry work this way? I could have gotten up here and I could have just said, beans give you gas. And it would have said exactly the same thing and a lot less words, right? 4 words. Instead, I've got to do this. Beans, beans, the magical fruit. I've got to come up with pictures and all this other sort of stuff. But the creme de la creme, the thing that caps off the poem, is the fact that the word fruit and toot rhyme. And we're all sitting in here kind of giggling or rolling our eyes or having this big reaction to a poem. Why is it that we get so excited just because our mouths got to say the sound oot twice? I don't get it, right? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Let me give you another example. Johanna, when she was in high school, had a pool in her backyard. So to make money over the summers, she had been trained as a lifeguard, and so she taught swimming lessons to little kids. And so she'd be getting these little kids to try to be comfortable with water, and a lot of them were really freaked out, and she'd be trying to teach them to float on their backs, hanging onto a floaty, or even just trying to float in the water, and they're nervous. They're really scared. So to distract them, to get their mind off of it, she'd often say, hey, do you know a song? Do you know a song we could sing? And so these little kids are, row, row, row your boat. They're doing all these different things. Well, she gets this one little girl in there, and this girl is freaked out about the water. She is nervous. So Johanna says, hey, do you know any songs? And this little girl goes, yes. And Johanna says, well, can you sing it? And she goes, yes. And Johanna says, okay, go ahead. And she goes, great big gobs of greasy, grimy gopher guts, mutilated monkey meat, chopped up parakeet. Isn't that horrible? I mean, it's hilarious, but isn't that horrible? We're talking about dead animals. We have an entire poem written about dead animals. We're talking about a gopher whose guts are outside of its body, and we're so excited because all of the words start with the letter G. We get to start this poem with g, 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 and because we get to do that, all of a sudden we're so excited we think it's hilarious. We're talking about a dead gopher. Same with this monkey. This monkey has not only been murdered, it's not only dead, but it's mutilated. Its muscles have been mutilated, and we're all excited because it's also alliterated. It also all starts with M. We're all excited now. And then we got chopped up parakeet. I have a pet bird. This hurts my heart a little bit. I like my bird a lot. And here's one that's chopped up, but since it rhymes with monkey meat, we think it's hysterical. Poetry is just weird stuff. And the Bible is full of poetry. We're in this series, Summer in the Psalms. See what we did there? Some alliteration. You guys like that? Everybody thinks it's funny just because we make that PS noise twice. Summer in the Psalms. We're in this series and we're studying the book of Psalms, which it's all poetry, but there's so many books. A lot of the Old Testament has a lot of poetry in it. And to be honest with you, I always just kind of bounced right off of that as I was doing my Bible reading for many years as a Christian. Until I learned this idea. Learned it from Bible Project, BibleProject.com, Tim Mackey. Some really awesome Bible tools in there. One of the things I learned is this. English poetry is based on repeating sounds. Great big gobs of greasy, grimy gopher guts, magical fruit, toot, all these things. That's what we're excited about. That's how our poetry is based. When you read a poem, sometimes 2 lines will rhyme and then 1 doesn't, and then 2 more will, and all this stuff. And people spend huge amounts of time, artists, songwriters, poets, they spend huge amounts of time taking an idea and trying to figure out how to do this with repeating sounds. Hebrew poetry has a whole different key to unlock it. Hebrew poetry is based on repeating ideas. especially in English, but a lot of scholars doubt even in Hebrew, they don't think their poems rhymed. They don't think that these poems had these oot noises or g noises in them. Instead, usually they're based on repeating ideas. So, to study this idea, I wanted to show you Psalm 86. Now, I picked Psalm 86 just because of this first verse, to be honest. Well, two reasons. First verse, incline your ear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Man, that just speaks to my soul because I feel that so often. I feel that so much, so many times in my life. Answer me, Lord, I need you. I have problems right now. It's a very normal thing for me to be kind of praying. So that kind of just reaches out and grabs me right at the beginning. The other reason I really like Psalm 86, I don't know, weird thing about me, I like numbers that match for some reason, and I was born in 1986. So here we go, Psalm 86. Watch for repeating ideas. It's the key to unlocking this whole psalm, to unlocking what David is doing in this passage of Scripture. I'm going to guide you through it, and yes, the Oreos here on stage actually have something to do with this sermon. This isn't just in case I get hungry. Let's jump in. Psalm 86. Incline your ear, O Lord, and answer me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my life, for I am godly. Save your servant who trusts in you. You are my God. Already in the first two verses, we have the same idea that's repeated 3 different times. And the Hebrews liked to take an idea and not just repeat it, but every time they repeated it, they gave you a slightly different viewpoint on it. It's so different than our Western thinking. Our Western thinking is very logical, which means we move from A to B, from B to C, from C to D, and therefore we see how A links with C, and that's the end of our argument. We go beginning, middle, end, conclusion. Now you've understood my argument. The Hebrews did not do this. They circled it over and over and over again, and every time they did, they gave you a slightly different viewpoint so you could get the whole picture of what's going on. And we see the same idea repeated 3 times. He needs God, and he's trying to persuade God to listen to him. And he keeps giving him another reason. I am godly. I trust in you. You are my God. He keeps giving him reasons over and over again why he should save his servant, why he should preserve his life, why he should incline his ear. David is in a tough spot. Whatever the thing is, David's in a hard spot right now. And it continues in verses 3 and 4. Be gracious to me, O Lord. Another request of God. Why? For to you do I cry all the day. Gladden the soul of your servant. Another request to God. Why? For to you, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Over and over and over again. Probably, what is this, 5, 6 times now? We've had this same idea repeated. Hear me, make me glad, save me, be gracious to me, preserve my life, because you are my God. I cry all the day. I am poor and needy. I am godly. I trust in you. All of these things, right? So at the very beginning of the poem, David has laid down a solid base of repeated ideas. And then verse 5 sticks out like a sore thumb all of a sudden. Let's look at it. For you, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call upon you. What? When we're processing this through poetry, this is the line that doesn't rhyme. This is the line that draws attention to itself because it doesn't have the repeated idea. There is no mention of David's condition in here. There is no mention of his need. There is no mention of what he wants God to even do. There is no mention of why God should do that. All of these ideas that have been repeated are completely left out. And in verse 5, all he does is talk about who God is. For you, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call upon you. That's the only idea that's kind of repeated, is that people are calling upon God, but it's still very different. So we see this poem has just shifted all of a sudden. Well, let's keep going in verse 6, see what happens. Give ear, O Lord, to my prayer. Whoa, ear? Okay, this is a similar idea to what we had in the first verse. Incline your ear. This is the same thing. All of a sudden, we're right back into the same prayer that David started with. Give ear, O Lord, to my prayer. Listen to my plea for grace. Let's repeat it again. In the day of my trouble, I call upon you. This is different. For you answer me. Where was that in the first 4 verses? These first 4 verses, just totally desperate. David is calling out to God, and he's kind of worried that God's not going to hear him. That's why he says over and over and over again, and he's trying to persuade God. But all of a sudden, here in verse 7, he has assurance that God is hearing him. And so the picture I had for you of this first section of Psalm 86, and we're going to look at the other 2 sections as well. There's like 3 sections in Psalm 86. It's kind of like an Oreo. It's kind of like an Oreo. And by the way, these are not real Oreos. These are off-brand, but it's what I had, so I brought them. The beginning of the passage of Scripture here, the beginning of this section, is kind of like the first cookie in an Oreo. He's rolling along, he's praying. David is in a hard spot. He has brought the dump truck of all of his worries, and he is laying them out before God in this prayer. Verse 5 right here, for you, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call upon you. Radically different. All of a sudden, that's the icing right here in the middle of the Oreo. I don't know if you can see that in the back, but it's just your typical Oreo. Got the icing right there. So different than the rest of the prayer that David was praying. And then starting in verse 6, he resumes right back with the same prayer, same repeated ideas, same kind of theme. And you're going, wow, that's interesting. What does this mean? What's going on? How does this idea work? What's happening? Well, let's dive into the next section and let's see what's going on. There is none like you among the gods, O Lord, nor are there any works like yours. All the nations you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord, and shall glorify your name. Okay, we've got some repeated ideas here. Just one. It's not quite as elaborate as the first section of the psalm, but let's take a look at it. There is none like you among the gods, O Lord, meaning of all of the beings in the spiritual realm, there is no one like our God. He is above all of these things. All the nations you have made shall come and worship before you, O Lord. All in the physical realm, all of mankind, at the heights of mankind's power, at the nation level, nothing can touch our God. In fact, all of these things will come and worship before God and glorify his name. For you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. Whoa. Let's pause a second here. That sounds kind of familiar. We have all these things going on. We have nations coming in before God and worshiping him. We have no other being in the spiritual realm that is anything like our God. And we have this repeated idea, and then all of a sudden, verse 10 comes along and throws it all off. But you know what? It's kind of weird because this is full of you are statements. You are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. What's that sound like? That sounds an awful lot like verse 5. For you, O Lord, are good. You are. He keeps all of a sudden, he stops. He takes himself. He takes the world. He takes all of these things out of the picture, and he makes a bunch of are statements about God. He makes a bunch of statements about God's character and who he is. He's doing the same thing in verse 10. He's got some repeated ideas, and there's another icing verse right there. Then he picks back up in 11, teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name. I give thanks to you, O Lord my God, with my whole heart, and I will glorify your name forever. Wait, another glorify your name forever. That sounds kind of like here in verse 9 when it says, shall glorify your name. We got a repeated idea. All of a sudden we see David is building another Oreo, but this time it's a little bit different. That first Oreo was dark. That first Oreo was tough. That first Oreo was a tough prayer before God. David is in a dark spot. David is feeling bad. He has hard things going on in his life. But in the middle of it, he remembers who God is. But this next section, these are all positive things. God is above all the other creation, all the other things in the spiritual realm. God is above all of the nations. God alone, icing verse. There is none like you, verse 10, for you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. That's the icing right there in the middle. Same kind of icing is in this Oreo. Teach me your way, O Lord, that I may walk in your truth. Unite my heart to fear your name. I give thanks to you, O Lord my God, with my whole heart, and I will glorify your name forever. For great is your steadfast love toward me. You have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol. I love this middle section of Psalm 86 because it's really interesting what he does here. He's comparing God to all the other beings in the spiritual realm. He's comparing God to everything in the physical realm. And then he remembers who God is. You alone are God. You do great things. And then it changes this from everybody else and all the other things in the spiritual realm to himself. All of a sudden, David is praying about how he will glorify God, about how he wants to follow, to fear his name, to walk in his truth, all of these things. And again, that last line, the last line of the first Oreo was that God was going to answer him, right? Now, you have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol, the underworld, the grave. You've delivered him from that. So you're tracking with him? Right? He's stacked two Oreos together. Let's finish out the psalm. Let's see how this ends. Let's see what happens here. O God, insolent men have risen up against me. A band of ruthless men seeks my life, and they do not set you before them. Okay, we've got some repeated ideas. Insolent men, ruthless men, they've risen up against him. They're seeking his life. These are people that do not seek God. Repeated idea, repeated idea, repeated idea. But you, O Lord, are a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. Icing verse, right there. He's following the same pattern again. And all of a sudden we have a verse that's all about God and only about him. There's nothing about the other men. There's nothing about David. There's nothing about his situation that's going on here. And so we've got the situation set out in verse 14. We have the icing verse in verse 15. What happens with the rest of this psalm? How does it go? It says, turn to me and be gracious to me. Give your strength to your servant. And save the son of your maidservant. Save me, God. My mom loved you even. Save me because for her sake. Show me a sign of your favor, that those who hate me, repeated idea again, the insolent men, the ruthless men, the ones that don't follow God, the ones that are hating him, those who hate me may see and be put to shame. Why? Again, the prayer changes. Because you, Lord, have helped me and comforted me. Again, we have another Oreo, but this time again, it's dark. David is in a hard place. David's in a tough spot, and he's crying out to his God. But in the middle of it, he remembers who his God is. He remembers how he is good, merciful, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. We've got that icing in the middle of the prayer. And again, it changes the second part of the prayer. It changes the back half of the prayer. He's got some reassurance because you, Lord, have helped me and comforted me. He stacks another Oreo on there. And for the real literary nerd, just to show you how brilliant the biblical authors are, just to show you how smart and incredible this poem is, what an artist David was, he stacked an Oreo inside two Oreos, right? He put icing in the middle that middle passage is all good, all light, all good things happening, surrounded by the darkness. What is David trying to say with Psalm 86? I think you're already tracking with me. I think you've already got the idea. But just to underline it, just to make sure, here it is. We must remember who God is. When we remember who God is, it changes our prayers and it changes us. You see this with every single Oreo in the passage of Scripture. Bad stuff is happening for the first 4 verses. Then he remembers who God is. For you, O Lord, are good and forgiving, abounding in steadfast love to all who call upon you. And it changes David's prayer, and he ends with, for you answer me. In the middle Oreo, good things are happening. And he's still in the middle of the good things. He remembers, for you are great and do wondrous things. You alone are God. And it changes his prayer. All of a sudden, he goes from comparing God to everybody else and everything that's happening out there to himself. I want to walk in your truth. My heart needs to fear your name. I give thanks to you. And even then, he also knows you have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol. Even in the middle of that lighter Oreo, he is remembering that when things are rough, I've got my God with me. And then he does the same thing one more time. You, O Lord, are a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness. He remembers who God is, and that gives him reassurance that you, Lord, have helped me and comforted me. When we remember who God is, it changes our prayers and it changes us. When my daughter Beth was born, we were a few months into our parenting journey, and guys, Beth was a hard baby, just difficult. Screamed so much, yelled and cried so much, especially around bedtime, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Those are just black holes in my memory from 14 years ago, 15 years ago. What were we even doing? I don't even know what we were doing. And so we are just getting less and, Johanna is getting less and less and less sleep all the time. I promised to be a good dad, promised to wake up and do my shift, but trying to get me awake and be coherent and understand what was going on with a child at 2 a.m. just did not work. So she gave up. And so she's getting less and less and less sleep. I'm getting grumpier and grumpier and grumpier at what's going on in my home every night at 7 o'clock. And this wonderful lady who had successfully raised 4 children, she's one of these people that's just a beautiful soul and a beautiful spirit, and she had this white hair and a smile that could light up a room. And so she was talking with us one day, and she said, you know what you need to do? And we're like, what is it, Lucille? And she said, you need to set a timer for 10 minutes and let her cry for 10 minutes. And I said, really? And she goes, yes. You have changed that baby's diaper. She is a healthy child. You have fed her. There's no issues with this child. She just needs to learn how to calm herself down. Well, I thought we had the answer. I thought we had it figured out. Little did I know that Lucille Madeira just launched World War III in my home. Because we go to put this into practice, we go to start on this, we get 5 minutes into the timer, and Johanna says, I need to go check on her. And I said, we cannot. The timer has not gone off. And she said, there's something wrong with Beth. We need to go check on her. And I said, there's nothing wrong with her. She's okay. Listen to her. She's screaming. Her lungs are full of air. She's fine. And she said, no, there's not. There's a problem. I'm going to go check on her. And World War III, right there, major problem. And in the middle of it, Johanna and I forgot who we were arguing with. All of a sudden, my wife, I'm looking at her and I'm going, you're just weak. You can't handle a little child screaming for 5 more minutes? What kind of weak softy are you? I didn't actually say those words, but that's what I'm thinking in my mind, right? And Johanna's over there going, you enjoy the sound of children screaming? Why would you not try to make it stop? Are you Hitler? Do you enjoy the suffering of children? In the middle of that argument, we forgot who the other person was. And it changes how you argue. All of a sudden, words are flying and being snappy, and I mean, it wasn't a pretty scene because I forgot. My wife is not weak. She's not some kind of softy. She's been through some hard things that would melt me, and she faced them with grace and with strength and with courage. She's an incredibly strong woman. She cares for her child, and her primary motivation was to care for a need that was being expressed by my daughter. And she forgot that I am trying to parent a person to be self-sufficient and to be okay on their own and to not need me constantly for every single little thing. That I also am looking out for Beth's best interests. Both of us wanted to care for our child well. Both of us wanted to love her well. And we forgot that in the middle of that fight. I think sometimes with our lives, we are going through so much. And I'm looking around this room and I know that there are stories in this room. I don't know what your week was like. I don't know every single detail, but I know it was a lot. And you're coming in here and you're carrying a burden and you're carrying a load. And you sound like David at the beginning of Psalm 86. Incline your ear to me, God. You're sitting in that chair. You're singing these worship songs this morning. And you're going, God, are you hearing me at all? I am poor and needy. I have nothing left. And we're going to walk out of this building after this service is over. We're going to get back into our cars. We're going to drive back to our homes. We're going to go to work. We're going to deal with our families. We're going to deal with all these things. And sometimes you just plain feel like you're totally out of gas, no resources left. And you're going, God, are you hearing me now? And all of a sudden the image comes into your mind of God just watching you suffer. And we've got to remind ourselves of who God is. We have to remind ourselves of his character. Our God is a God of love, abounding in grace and mercy. He alone is God who does great things. We must remember who our God is. And so what we're going to do to close out is I'm going to encourage you to pray some Oreo prayers. Back up the pickup truck of all the things you've been carrying and dump it on God. We're going to just give you silence for a minute, and you're going to pray. You're just going to dump it all out before him. And then after a minute or so, we're going to display on the screen all of those verses from Psalm 86, verse 5 and verse 10, and these icing verses reminding us of who our God is. And I want you to change your prayer. You're going to back off from yourself. You're not going to pray about yourself. You're not going to pray about your situation. You're not going to ask God for anything. You're going to pray that icing prayer, and you're going to speak to God about who he is. And after a minute of that, we're going to come back and we're going to finish our prayer. And see how it changes in your heart. See how you've changed. When you truly remember who God is, when you speak those things back to him, how it changes the perspective on your situation and what kind of hope it brings you. Let's go to God and let's pray an Oreo prayer.